Wonderful. Let's begin our meeting. We call this meeting to order and welcome you all here today. Today is Tuesday, the 23rd day of June of 2015, and this is the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners of Weber County. We will begin today with our invocation, which will be offered by Mr. Devron Anderson, our county surveyor, after which the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mr. Sean Wilkinson, and the thought of the day by Commissioner Bell. Mr. Anderson.
Our eternal Father in heaven, we come before Thee at this time in the Weber County Commission meeting, and we give Thee thanks first and foremost for the liberties that we have, for the Constitution of the United States of America, and for all those in all the generations that have upheld that Constitution to give us the freedoms that we have. We are grateful for the opportunity we have to serve the people of Weber County. We ask for Thy guidance in all that we put our hands to this day, that we can be equitable and fair and just and moving forward in the progress of the county. We ask for Thy blessing always, that we can try to be found doing what is right at all times, and we give this invocation at this time in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the thought of the day, you may not have noticed this great tie that I'm wearing. It's got a little seat belt on the tie. And unlike this tie, a seat belt complements any outfit. So I don't know if we've noticed, but this one really goes well with the angles. But it's the seat belt part of it. So this is our health department's been pushing that, seat belts. See me standing, but so on your seatbelt, so remember, buckle up to remind you. And it's sometimes difficult for some folks, but please do it, and it does save lives. So that's my thought of the day.
Thank you, Commissioner, that we had that challenge. Commissioner Ebert has his tie on too. I'm the only one apparently that doesn't.
You must not have got the memo.
My memo said to wear it on Father's Day and post it on social media, which I did. So, but I think it's good to talk about it in many different circumstances. And that seatbelt thing has been proven over and over again. It's a good opportunity for us to remind each other we all want to go home. So,
well, I just had a member of our community out in Far West who had a brother that was in the canyon involved in a very extremely serious accident where he had some extreme injuries. But him and his family's lives were saved because they were wearing seatbelts, and that's from about 3 or 4 days ago. So we'll send out our best to the Linhart family and for the recovery of their family members.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, as of a couple of months ago, it's a primary offense now, so the Highway Patrol is watching, and the Sheriff's Office as well, so let's remember to click it up. Thank you, Commissioner Bell, for bringing that to our attention and reminding us of that important issue. We'll move to our consent items. Item number 1 is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $71,047.20. Request for approval of warrants number 322174 through 322328 in the amount of $3,826,413.76. Request for approval of minutes for the meeting held on June 16th of 2015. Request for approval of a new business license. Request for the Weber County Garage. For approval to surplus a Coates Model 4040A tire changer. Request for approval of an amendment to a contract by and between Weber County and the Utah Department of Transportation. Increasing funding for State Road 108 closure on 3500 West, project number S01082910. Request for approval of an amendment to a contract by and between Weber County and Ogden City, amending funding amounts for the Ogden City Harrison Boulevard project. Request for approval of an amendment to a contract by and between Weber County and Pleasant View City, approving an increase in funding for environmental study on Skyline Drive in Pleasant View City. Request for approval of amendments to a contract by and between Weber County and Tyler Technologies, removing point-of-sale cash installation services and updating escrow fee pricing. Request for approval of right-of-way contracts by and between Weber County and the following property owners on 12th Street: Advanced Fluid Containment, TK Swan Land Ltd., Hayes West Welding, John Paul Carden and Matilda Darlene Carden, Neil E. Davis and Patsy J. Davis, Elaine T. and James M. Davis, Brad E. Davis and Jennifer A. Davis, West Warren Partnership, Robert M. Bingham Jr., Lois B. Knight and Brian Alma Knight, GGA, Alan C. Heslop and K.F. Heslop, Alan C. Heslop and K.F. Heslop, Gina Rousey, K.W. Rousey, Leslie Meyerhofer and Carrie Meyerhofer, Kenneth and Kay Rousey, Joel Parker, Bar M. Land and Livestock, Bar M. Land and Livestock, Brenda G. Keyworth and Mark L. Keyworth, Joel Parker, Mike Bauman, Mark Bennett, Scott Molding, Boyd W. Barrow and wife Judy A. Barrow, George Philip East and Kay East, Larry W. Levitt, Arnold E. Castleberry and Charity A. Castleberry. That was the 12th Street list. The 3500 West would be, these are last names only: Eddie Atkinson, Orem, Favero Trust, Favero, Rigoberto, Markland, Castellano, Earl, Wynn, Bush, Palmer, Painter, Trust, Tubbs, Messerly Trust, Tubbs Trust, Flinders Trust, Mark, Burton, Cutler, Ropalato, Tubbs, and Montgomery. And on Skyline Drive, Lee A. Johnston. So those are the individuals recently who we're looking for those ratifications for those contracts that have been signed. Okay, that's quite a list of consent items, commissioners. Before we turn to Ricky, are there any items on the consent list that you are uncomfortable with on consent that you'd like to have pulled off and discussed further at this time? Okay, Ricky, you want to give us a few highlights?
You bet. We had only 16 purchase orders this week for a total of $71,000. 42% of that, or $30,000, went to the health department primarily for vaccines. 20%, or $14,000, went to the library for encyclopedias and audiobooks, and they have a good collection of audiobooks there. 16%, or $11,000, went to emergency management for a hazmat CAD detector, which sounds really cool. I kind of want one. 11%, or $8,000, goes to the conference center for air conditioning repairs. As far as checks go, we issued 155 checks this week for $3.8 million. 76% of that, or $2.9 million, went to transportation development for the project costs for the construction projects that we've got going on. And then 4%, or $183,000, went to the paramedic monthly payment for our paramedic services, and then 4%, or $173,000, to Weber Human Services for the monthly payment as well.
Okay, any questions on that report?
I'll make a motion, we accept the consent item as read.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve and adopt the consent items, and I just want to add to that. I think that the engineering and planning and all those groups that are working with these road projects, I would say maybe, well, the whole county deals with them all together, but I think maybe the heaviest lift this particular time comes from the engineering department, and when I see a list like that, it's obvious that there's an awful lot of effort that goes into that entire thing. The county is working very, very hard to improve some of our failing infrastructure right now when it comes to both roads and some of our waterways. And I just want to give a shout out to the group that's been working on this, because as we look at this and we ratify a big list like that, we recognize that has taken an awful lot of effort, an awful lot of time, an awful lot of work, and it also might help us to understand that maybe everything we hear about those projects isn't necessarily true. I mean, there's a lot of need out there and a lot of support for these projects as we move forward. So thank you for presenting those to us. If you noticed, there was another big list presented to us last week. Now we've kind of caught up. You'll see smaller lists coming every week for ratification of those contracts. And so we're probably well over, almost close to done on 3500 West, well over halfway on 12th Street, and making some progress on Highlands as well. So we're got a lot going on, and we appreciate your effort. All right, we do have a motion and a second on the floor then to approve those consent items. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, item number 1 under our action items is discussion and or action on a presentation of the quarterly interim financial report presented by Scott Park. Scott, come on up. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Scott.
So you have before you the interim financial report as of March 31st, 2015. And as quarterly financial statements go, this is actually a pretty boring one, and that's a good thing. Our expenditures are right in line with where we expect them to be for that time of the year. And our revenues are trending right where we expect them to be as well. So I don't have anything really interesting to report to you. We're watching property tax revenue as we go forward. We're hoping that comes in right where we want it to come in. Sales tax we think is actually going to come in closer to 5%, although we budgeted for 4%, so that's good news. As the way of expenditures, you're going to see some expenditure changes going forward as we've pulled in the Corridor Preservation Fund now as under county control. $18 million was given to the county, which was formerly managed by the state. And so we're going to see some budget change requests to actually fund some of these projects going forward. But the comparisons with prior years are going to start to change, and so we'll start to highlight those as we go forward. But we're going to have a lot more money going in and out for these transportation projects than we've had previously. But other than that, unless you have any questions, I'll present to you this quarterly financial report.
Well, I would actually like you to tell a little bit about our new computer system that we're in the process of putting in new software with our accounting software, and kind of where we've been and where we're going with that. I think that's an important update that the people need to know what we're doing there and the great strides you're making there. So,
sure. Our current system is an old legacy system. It actually has several different modules that don't that they have to be interfaced with each other. They don't talk to each other very well, and so we have to post a lot of entries in both systems. We have a lot of duplicate data entry, and so this new system is kind of a one-stop shop. You put the information in at once and it goes everywhere it needs to go. We don't have to do reconciliations between systems, and we get rid of a lot of work that can be done by a computer a lot better than a person can do it. So we're going to get rid of a lot of spreadsheets. We're going to get rid of a lot of data entry that doesn't really need to be done. So we're moving along on that progress. We actually have a kickoff meeting scheduled here with the consultants next week. And once we get through that, we'll be revising our chart of accounts to make sure we have a modern chart of accounts that meets our information needs going forward, to give us a little bit better information on the cost of different projects. And we'll continue to move forward with that. So implementation is scheduled for January 1st of 2016. So it's an aggressive timeline, but I'm confident we'll make it.
so I think that that a lot of our accounting, we were doing it double. So in other words, people out in their offices in some of the different divisions of the county would put everything in their computer and run their own system. We'd send all the data over here, and then we'd re-put it in our system here. And we did a lot of that. And so this consolidation, Scott's been working on since he arrived here at the county, and I appreciate him working on that, because this is going to, in the end, our financials are going to be so much more easy to get to, and it's not going to be double. We're not going to be doing it double and triple, putting stuff in, and we're really excited about it. So I appreciate your work you've done on that.
Well, this is a good example of some of the things that we're trying to do as a commission. You know, we recognize that it takes some time and money to bring ourselves up to the 21st century. I mean, it's effort, and this technology is changing so fast on us. but we've been behind, and it's time for us to catch up and do some of the stuff that makes sense. And Scott, of course, this is one of the things that he brought to our attention when he first came, to work for the county, and just a desire to update that system, and great enthusiasm and vision, Scott, in this project. We appreciate that, and frankly, we're with you 100%. We support you. We're excited to have the opportunity to improve ourselves, and of course, we never want to look at something and say, well, we're just doing this because we've done it forever. I mean, we don't want to get stuck in that rut. Of course, we don't want to change things that are working, but we appreciate it when you and other department heads bring us good, positive suggestions for changes that help us to move forward into the future. So anytime we can do that, make positive strides, we look forward to that opportunity. So I think it's a great system, great opportunity, and we're moving forward with it. All right.
I'll make a motion. Is there a number with that? I'll make a motion, we accept the presentation of the quarterly interim financial report.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second then to approve the presentation of the quarterly interim financial report. Is there discussion of the motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you,
Just
Scott.
by way of information to remind you that this is something that in the past, we've only done on a yearly basis, and now we started to do this on a quarterly basis. So hopefully it helps us to stay more on top of any public questions or concerns that might be out there. So, okay, thank you, Scott. All right, item number 2, presented by Ricky Hatch, is the request for approval of the 2015 tax rates.
Thanks, Commissioners. So Utah is a revenue neutral state, which what that means for the county is that we have a given budget, and we, whether property values rise or fall, our budget stays the same unless the commission decides to increase that budget. And that decision involves what's called truth in taxation, which requires notices given to the public and several public hearings, and political pain and pressure, which it should be. If we're raising taxes, we should make sure that the citizens have a chance to talk to us about it. Every year we have to approve the tax rates. The process where how this goes through is the tax commission. We provide our property tax rolls, which are all of the property parcels in our county, both raw land, residential and commercial. We give all of that information to the state tax commission, and the state tax commission then turns around and basically calculates what our property tax rate should be in order to maintain revenue neutrality. They send that to us, and then it's our decision to take those tax rates, and we can either do a tax decrease, or we could go with the exact tax rates that the state tax commission recommends, or we can go above those state tax rates. If we choose to go above, that's when the truth in taxation requirement kicks in. For this year, we've received the tax rates from the state tax commission, the recommended tax rates, and the county has no intention to increase the tax rates above and beyond what the state tax commission has said. And so we present these tax rates to you for your approval. They're in line with the state tax commission rates, and we're not going above or below them.
Commissioners, any questions on that?
Sounds great.
It's been given a lot of thought and a lot of effort to try and figure out where we should be, but makes good sense. And Ricky, we appreciate your leadership in the clerk auditor's office for taking the lead on that for us. And seems like we're in the right place there. Commissioners, any comments or questions?
I'll make a motion, we accept the 2015 tax rates.
Second.
So that's covering all of the ones in the library and our paramedic tax rate and all those, right?
Yes, everything will show up on the tax notice that goes out to the citizens.
Perfect. Okie dokie. Let's move to a vote on that issue. With the motion and a second on the floor, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we'll move now to item number 3 on the agenda. By the way, before we do that, let me just make an announcement. I forgot at the first that number 5, item number 5, will be held until next week, so that's off. So if anybody's here for that, it's off. Item number. Huh? What is it? Oh, sorry, I'll read it to you. Request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and the Wasatch Correctional Medical Services. Okay. Wasn't sure that would be the one, but yeah. Okay, we'll hear that one next week. All right, so item number 3 on our agenda is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Weber County appointing members to the Ogden Valley Planning Commission. So commissioners, you have your packets before you, and Sean, welcome to the podium.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. The Planning Division has advertised for 3 openings on the Ogden Valley Planning Commission. The terms of Ann Miller and Will Haymond expire on June 30th, and those will be appointments to full 4-year terms that will expire June 30th, 2019. And Penn Hollis, who has served on our commission for the last few years, is resigning early from his term, which expires next June. Therefore, his replacement will serve for approximately 1 year before that term expires. We received 9 applications and 1 application for reappointment from Will Haymond. Mr. Haymond lives in Eden, and he has served on the Planning Commission for approximately 18 months. The list of new applicants include Lisa Arbogast from Eden, Lynn J. Farron from Eden, Scott Hansen from Liberty, Rick Curl from the Ogden Canyon, Scott R. Kelly from East Huntsville, John E. Lowe from Liberty, Jamie Denise Taylor from East Huntsville, Stephen Richard Tolman from Liberty, and A. Stephen Waldrop from Eden. You have all of the information that has been submitted, and we have also prepared a resolution that we will add the names to once you make those appointments. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
So we're gonna appoint 2 to regular terms.
Yes.
And then we're gonna appoint 1 person to fill a term.
Correct.
Okay.
And Mr. Haymond, that he must have, if he's been on for 18 months, then that must have been an unexpired term.
Correct. He replaced someone for the remainder of their term. Yes.
Are any of the new applicants, have they served on the Planning Commission prior? Do you have any of that information?
I don't know in the past, but for at least the last 10 years since I've been here, none of them have served on the Planning Commission.
Well, Sean, I have to admit, I have very rarely seen a list of applicants that I've been any more impressed with. I mean, we've got a list of 10 people here for 3 spots.
Yes.
That is just outstanding. I mean, I know several of them, some that I don't, but I've interviewed many of them, had the chance to visit with them and get a feel for who they are. I mean, we've got attorneys and doctors and farmers and builders and homemakers, and I mean, it's just but they are extremely well regarded in their community, very well respected. It's a pretty good list. I mean,
it's a great list.
It's pretty hard. Frankly, it's been hard for me to narrow down because they're such a great list.
So East Huntsville, they're not in Huntsville?
Not in
Incorporated
Huntsville
County.
Town, but east of Huntsville Town in that area, in the unincorporated area.
Okay.
Yeah, if they were in Huntsville Town, then they would not be
Right.
eligible.
Right.
I just didn't know there was an East
So
Huntsville
the
neighborhood.
Green Hill area, Huntsville Meadows, there's quite a bit up toward the monastery and all of that area. We would consider East Huntsville.
Okay.
Well, and frankly, it's a good sign to me that there are a lot of folks up there willing to get involved and be involved in this process. As you know, there's an awful lot of stuff going on up there right now. There's a lot of individuals who want to have input in the process. We're in the middle of a update to the master plan.
Yes.
And there's been public meetings and discussion, and I'm always happy when I hear that people go to a meeting and hear something that they're concerned about, or have something that they care about, and then say, okay, I'm willing to actually step up and get involved and put my money where my mouth is with this. When I say that, I mean time. This is time. This is a challenge. This is work.
It's a big commitment.
It's a big commitment, but yet it's one way to really be involved in your community. It's really a positive thing. I had the opportunity to serve years ago and enjoyed it very, very much. I wanted a raise, but it was a great opportunity. So we appreciate all of these who have applied. Frankly, I don't see anybody here that I couldn't support, and so I hope that for the 7 who are not successful this time, that they will find a way to be involved in a positive way, and then to keep that interest in line, so that maybe sometime soon there'll be an opportunity. So commissioners, we have 2 4-year terms to fill, and 1 1-year term, right, to fill
Yes.
in the place of Commissioner Miller, who
Commissioner Hollis.
who still had 1 year on his term.
So do we have any members of that planning commission that live in Ogden Canyon?
Ann Miller did live in the Ogden Canyon, and we had 1 applicant from the Ogden Canyon.
Okay, thank you.
So since you brought that up, Commissioner, I think there's a good discussion to be had there. I mean, we're always looking for diversity in many ways that we can, any way that we can, whether it be political diversity, geographic diversity, gender diversity. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at this. But we also want to look at the individual qualifications, and so it's a matter of determining, as we see all the applications, if we can represent as many people as we possibly can. That's kind of what I hope to do. So we do have 1 applicant to that point from the Canyon. I believe that one is Mr. Curl. Any other questions or comments?
So again, the difficulty is managing a balance. I think members of those communities, it's important for the geography and geographical boundaries, but I believe that that's a community as a whole. And I feel, again, it is important, but I mean, these are all very well qualified individuals that will work through those processes, and if they don't live in that part of the community, that doesn't mean that they cannot represent that community. That's what we do. We represent the entire community, all the cities and all the unincorporated, and we don't put one portion of the community above the other. So I feel very strongly that as we've reviewed these names, trying to get some type of balance, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a representation from every single portion of that community to get a good and fair and equitable representation of different parts of the community. Do we have a resolution number, Fatima?
29.
So I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 29, appointing the following: A. Stephen Waldrip to serve as the 1-year replacement for Mr. Penn Hollis. Jamie Denise Taylor to serve as a 4-year term, and a reappointment of Will Haymond to a 4-year term.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second then, and let me just make sure that I have your motion correct, Commissioner. Reappointing Mr. Will Haymond, who is the individual that has been serving for 18 months, correct?
Correct.
Reappointing Mr. Will Haymond to a 4-year term, appointing Jamie Denise Taylor to a 4-year term, and A. Stephen Waldrip as to a 1-year term.
That is
Is
correct.
that correct? Okay, that's the motion and the second. Any discussion to that motion?
I would just like to add really quickly that the members that have put in, the applicants that have put in, were extremely qualified, and again, it's a difficult decision, And we would encourage those members of the community that have not been appointed at this time to be participants in the community and continue to express their values and their concerns, to attend meetings, and to be an active part of the community.
Okay.
Question? I'm relatively new to this whole part of the process, and I was the fellow from Huntsville, Scott Kelly. But I was never informed that there was a familiarization or an interview process, so I sort of have to question myself. It's like perhaps I should have been more proactive, but
Scott, thank you for speaking up. We're not at the point in the meeting where we can take public comment
Oh,
right
never
now,
mind.
but I'll tell you what. Why don't you stick around after the meeting and we'll be happy to talk with you. Thank you for coming. I wish I would have known who you
Thanks
were,
very
but
much.
anyway, we'll talk right after the meeting. Okay, that's the motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Roll call. Oh, it's a roll call on a res. Go ahead.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner Ebert,
Aye.
Chair Gibson,
Aye. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. So our next item on the agenda is very similar with the Western Weber Planning Commission. We have, in this case, well, Sean, you tell us what we have and I'll.
Okay, commissioners, for the Western Weber Planning Commission, we have 2 terms expiring. Those are the terms of Andrew Favero and Ryan Judkins, and those will also be full 4-year appointments, which will expire on June 30th, 2019. Mr. Judkins did not seek reappointment due to his acceptance of a new position of employment with Weber County, and Mr. Favero did submit an application for reappointment. He lives in the Taylor area and has served for approximately 4.5 years on the Planning Commission. So he served a half-year replacement term and then 1 full 4-year term. The new applicants include Todd William Taylor from West Warren, Lance C. Greenwell from West Weber, and Michael T. Slater from Taylor. And again, you have all of the information that has been submitted, and we will add the names that you appoint to the resolution.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments on these particular individuals? This is one of those commissions that, just like the one we just had, where it's good to have good applicants. Way more than we can appoint. And there's a lot of heavy issues on their plate as well, so. You've had these applications now for quite some time, and just wondering if you have any thoughts or direction you'd like to offer on this.
Commissioner Bell?
I think they look good. I've looked at them all. They're all acceptable, so.
Great individuals.
Yeah, and again, it's difficult. As you review, you know some of them, you don't know others. You review applications. You see positions on different issues, property rights, specific concerns that they have, and those concerns and those specific issues that they have are different depending on where they're at. The Upper Valley is completely different than out here in the Western Weber area. So again, it's not an easy task coming to decision-picking individuals.
So, anybody like to make a recommendation then, based on your study and research?
I'll make a motion if you'd like a motion, or we can talk about applicants, whichever you would like to do. I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 30, appointing Mr. Michael T. Slater and Mr. Lance C. Greenwell to the Western Weber Planning Commission.
Okay.
I second it.
I have a second. Okay, we have a motion and a second then to approve Lance T. Greenwell, C. Greenwell, and Michael Slater. Those are both 4-year terms, correct, Sean?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any discussion then to that motion?
Just like to express our appreciation for Mr. Andrew Favero and Mr. Ryan Jenkins for their terms of service and for the great work they brought to the Western Weber Planning Commission.
Now, was Mr. Judkins' term up, or was it
Yes.
still a year? Okay, I thought it was still a year.
No, we had two expiring.
Okay, so it would be a four-year
Correct, yes.
appointment. Okay. Well, and it does, as far as the geographical balance that we're looking for a little bit, I think those two individuals both come from the area where we would have someone leaving, so that makes good sense as well. So we appreciate that. All right. If there's no further discussion, let's call for a vote. Roll call vote. Fatima?
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
Chair Gibson?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. So as previously stated, we'll skip item number 5, which is the one that we just talked about that we would skip a minute ago. We'll move to item number 6, request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County appointing 2 members to the Weber County Boundary Commission. Commissioners, the reason that this is on our agenda, this is one of those things that is very, very seldom used, this Boundary Commission. There is very, very seldomly an opportunity or a need for the Boundary Commission to function. It's basically designed to resolve disputes that come up between municipalities within our county. And in this particular case, we have one. Just a little annexation dispute between a couple of our cities over on the south end of town. And so in order to deal with that, we need to establish a boundary commission to help to work through this process. What the statute reads, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong because you're the attorney, but the way I understand it is that the commission appoint 2 members, that the mayors appoint 2 members.
From each city, they appoint 1 from each city.
No, they can appoint them from any, the mayors just appoint them. I think it's likely that they will appoint the mayor, 1 from each city in this particular case, but
Okay.
but that's not a requisite. It's just that the mayors appoint 2 members. Okay, so that's 4 of the 7, and then the final 3 will be chosen by the 4 members that are appointed from the county and the cities. So we have a 30-day window from the time that we are made aware in writing that there is a dispute to make sure that the Boundary Commission is seated. We're into that 30-day window, and so we need to take action on this today so that the cities then can move. And I believe they've already made their appointments.
Have they made their appointments to cities?
Page says they have, and they are the 2 mayors from those 2 cities.
Okay.
The mayor of South Ogden and the mayor of Washington Terrace. And so those 2 mayors, along with the 2 that we appoint today, will get together here soon and try and hammer out who the 3 members at large should be. Okay. So with that being the case, my recommendation, commissioners, is that I think it makes good sense in my reading of the statute and the legislative intent. It makes good sense for, even though it's not required, it makes good sense for those 2 members appointed by the commission to be commissioners. And so I would recommend that myself and Commissioner Bell be appointed to serve on the Boundary Commission. Of course, that's a recommendation, and any of the 3 of us could do it, and frankly, anybody else that we choose could do it in this particular case.
I second it.
Is there a resolution number on that? Is that 31? I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 31,
Okay.
appointing Commissioner Gibson and Commissioner Bell to the Weber County Boundary Commission.
I second it again.
Okay. I think it makes sense. I appreciate that motion, and any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ebert?
Aye.
Chair Gibson?
Aye. The motion passes, and those are our members of the Boundary Commission. So we'll get with the mayors quickly and make those last 3 appointments, try to work this out. Okay, to item number 7, the approval of the right-of-way contracts by and between Weber County and the following property owners: Todd A. Keepers, Kelly M. Keepers, and I'm not going to read the parcel numbers. You can see those on the agenda if you would like. Dominion Investment Limited, and Scott L. Smith and Glenda Smith. Looks like these are all on Comey Road. Jared, are you presenting this? You want to come on up and explain to us what's going on here?
Good morning, Commissioners. As you are aware, and as you discussed earlier, Commissioner Gibson, the previous contracts were for ratification, and these are the current contracts for this past week. So as you can see there, we've got individuals on 3500 West and on Skyline Drive from this past week for approval of their right-of-way contracts.
All right, any other questions then? It's the same process we discussed earlier. Should be fairly simple. Okay. Seeing no further questions, let's have some action.
I'll make a motion that, is there a contract number?
272, 73, and 74.
I'll make a motion to accept contract number 272, 273, 274 between Weber County and some land acquisitions from Keepers, Melcamp, and Smith.
Second.
Motion and a second then to approve and adopt those 3 contracts, 73, 72, 73, and 74. Is there any further discussion of the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Jared.
Thank you, Jared, for all that work.
To our public hearing. I need a motion to adjourn the public meeting and convene a public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We're in our public hearing. And our public hearing today is to amend the operating and capital budgets of Weber County for the year of 2015. Scott?
All right, so we have a couple of adjustments we need to make to the 2015 operating and capital budgets. We received a couple of new grants, and we need authorization to actually spend the grant money. We received a grant in the attorney's office. We received a grant at the jail, and we've also received a couple of ramp grants to do some capital projects. As you look through this list as well, you'll see a couple of really big numbers on here. One for the redevelopment agency of $4 million, and this is just a change in the way we do accounting. So now the money's going to flow into the county's books and then out of the county's books, and so we need authorization to spend the revenue that we're getting. So there's no real increase in expenditures. It's just a change in how we're accounting for the money as it comes in and out. Same with the corridor preservation. You'll see that there's some money coming in and some money going out there. It's not really additional expenditures of the county. It's just money that used to go through UDOT. Now it's coming through the county, so we need authorization to spend it. We also have a couple of transfers between funds, so we're not really worried about fund balance decreasing, but we do have a couple of new expenditures. One is we're reclassifying some AED equipment for the sheriff's office out of the paramedic fund and putting it back into the sheriff. The sheriff actually felt it more appropriate to come out of that budget. And then we have $6,000 for a new copy machine. That's for our purchasing department that was split out of the clerk auditor's office. And we have $3,000 that is being used to help fund some overtime in the building inspector. They had a backlog, and we felt it appropriate to give them a little bit of money so they could pay some overtime and reduce that backlog. We also had $80,000 that is going for a design study out at near the old landfill, the Fort Buenaventura area, and $15,000 for a hydrological study up in the Upper Valley. So if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer those. If not, these are the adjustments we'd like to make to the operating budget.
And just for the public's understanding, those adjustments are things that we are aware of and understand, and so it's not a surprise to us, but we bring them here by way of making sure that people have an opportunity to hear of them. So we appreciate that. And Commissioners, is there any questions you have, anything that you weren't aware of?
And I think the main thing is that we used to do this once a year. We waited until December, and then we did it a one-shot deal. And if I'm not correct, we should be doing it quarterly, is what we've...
Yeah, state law requires first the quarterly financial statements,
Right.
they're required to be reported quarterly, and then anytime we actually change the budget, it should go through a public hearing before we spend the money. The problem with doing that in December is if somebody objects, well, it's a little too late because we've probably already spent the money.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we do these things beforehand so that if there is any opposition or if there's a concern, that we can hear that before we spent the money, before it's too late.
Right. So I appreciate you getting us up to speed on that, and I think that's great. So that looks great to me. I had a chance to review it and go over the changes we have in there, and I appreciate what you're doing. We're on budget. Everything else is where it's supposed to be, so thank you.
We're always trying to err on the side of openness and making sure that we put things out there for the community. I mean, they're always available, but we want to present it to them as much as we possibly can. So I think this goes right along in line with what we're trying to do as a commission, to make sure that we open the doors as wide as we can so that information is available and welcome at any time. So I appreciate this change, Scott. It's good.
You know, we had a D- grade not too many months ago in the paper about our transparency, which was a complete shocker to me because we've taken probably more steps in the last 6 months than any county or government entity that I know of, putting information out there and making it easily accessible, up to and including our website redesign, which we're in the process of doing. So I applaud you for bringing this forward and bringing our financials quarterly out for the public to view and to be able to look at and to see if we have changes and express our concerns or our appreciation. And so I think, again, this is a step forward for us in creating, more trust within our public sector. I would also, just one specific thing, like to say thank you to Sean bringing forward this hydrological study we have in the Upper Valley. It's a long 2-year process, I think, that's been looked forward. They've been asking for it for a while, so it's a great step forward in addressing some of those issues in the Upper Valley. So thank you, Sean, for bringing that forward, and that's why it's in this adjustment. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. All right. Any other comments, questions? Okay, let's have a motion then. Or no, we don't need a motion. We need to wait. Public comment. Is there any from the public who would like to speak to any of these budget items? I'll ask one more time. Is there any in the public who would like to comment? It seems as though there is not.
I'll make a motion
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the public meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion a second then to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene that public meeting. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. We're back in our public meeting to item number 5, which is action on the public hearing. So if you are so inclined, I would accept a motion to approve the amendments for the operating and capital budgets for the year of 2015.
Do we need a number with that?
Resolution 32.
I'll make a motion that we accept resolution number 32, which is a budget adjustment for 2015 operating capital budgets.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second then to approve and adopt those amended operating and capital budgets for the year of 2015. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye. Oh, Mr. Rez, we'll have a roll call, won't we?
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner Ebert,
Aye.
Chair Gibson.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. Sometimes I catch myself just a little too late, but at least I beat you to catching me, Fatima. That's good. That doesn't, usually she has to correct me. All right, item H is the assignment of the Pledge of Allegiance and the thought of the day for Tuesday, June 30th, 2015 at 10 a.m. We will, let's see, did you give the thought of the day last week? Okay, Commissioner Ebert will have the thought of the day. Any volunteers for the pledge? Jared? Okay, Jared Anderson will give us the pledge. And now to our final item, which is public comment. Is there any in the public who would like to comment at this point? Okay. Seeing none?
Question.
If you'd like to comment,
Am
go
I
ahead.
allowed to do that?
Yes,
Yeah,
come on up
come
to
right
the
on up there.
microphone, state your name for the record, and where you live, your address.
I'm Scott Kelly. I live up in Huntsville. I just had a question on the taxation. The state sets the guidelines. When there was no up or down, I just wasn't familiar with this. I'm still relatively new to the area, but do we follow the state guidelines, and then do we disclose whether there's an increase over what it is currently, or does the county always in sync with the state guidelines, and that's just how it is?
Okay, Dave, let me just explain to you. Generally, we can't answer questions for in public comment because if it's not on the agenda, then it's not posted. So we want to make sure we keep the grandma requirements. But in this particular case, could you answer that question, Dave, because it was on the agenda earlier and we talked about it? Sure. Okay, so we're gonna do that if that's all right. So Ricky, can you kind of explain that a little bit, and you can stay at the microphone for a minute if you want, just so that if he doesn't answer it, you can follow up.
Plus, you look pretty good on the YouTube.
Well, you got to be good for YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so with Utah being a revenue neutral state, it's kind of a weird setup. I like this setup, but it's sometimes a challenge to explain. The concept is that the organization's budget. So let's say Weber County had a budget of $128 million last year. The assumption is that this year our budget is approximately going to be $128 million again. There are some changes that they have into there. If there's new development in the county, significant new development, that increases the county budget without the need to go to a truth in taxation hearing. Also, there are other things, RDA requirements, collection rates, and other things like that go into the calculation. The State Tax Commission does all of that calculation and comes up with, okay, it was $128 million last year. Your new budget for this year, taking all of those into consideration, might be $132 million. And then they simply, to determine the tax rates, they simply take that $132 million budget, take all of the parcels and the values assigned to those parcels, and they divide that into the budget, and that determines the new tax rate. The interesting thing about that is when we get our property valuation and tax notices, if you compare the actual tax rates, they change from year to year. Sometimes they go higher and sometimes they go lower. That doesn't mean that our taxes have gone up. It means that that calculation that the State Tax Commission puts together has adjusted. It's changed. Where the truth in taxation requirement comes is when we get those numbers from the State Tax Commission. If we say $132 million isn't going to cut it this year, we need some more. We have a special project, or we're not meeting our operating expenses, or for whatever reason. At that point, then the commission makes the decision, we're going to raise the tax rates, and then we have to have a couple of public hearings and notice it in the paper and online and other things like that. I don't know if that answers your question, but generally the tax commission sets the ceiling rate. This is what your rate is, and if you want to go above that, you have to do truth in taxation.
So Ricky, I think maybe the question he was asking, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, his question was taxes seem to go up and down and a little fluid. So my understanding is our taxes are the same that we collect, but if my taxes go up, someone else's has to go down. Is that not right? I mean, at the end of the day, we have to equal the books. And that's what's happened occasionally. So if all of a sudden you get an area of our county where the taxes, where the property values skyrocket, they can skyrocket, they'll pay more taxes. But somewhere else in the county, someone else's taxes have to go down. Is that not correct?
Yes, that's correct. And I like the analogy of a balloon. So you blow up a balloon, the balloon's full of air, and that air represents $128 million. That represents the budget of the county. Now, every year the assessor, we have over 90,000 parcels in our county, and the assessor can't look at every one, but they can look at a few. About 20% they look at, actually physically inspect. And so I compare that to someone taking and squeezing the balloon, and wherever the hand is touching the balloon, that's where the assessor actually looks at the property. The rest of it, they have to kind of, they do statistical analysis. They look at market forces and market results to determine the most accurate as possible value for that property. Well, if I'm squeezing the balloon, some of it's going to go in where my fingers are, and some of it's going to bulge out. And that's where the change comes in. Like if my property tax goes up, maybe the assessor came and looked at my neighborhood or at my parcel, and it increased a little bit more than the average of the county. And then next year, the assessor takes his hands off the balloons, puts them in a different area, and now somebody else's might go up a little bit higher or might go down a little bit lower. If you look at it in the average, it averages out over the 5 years that the assessor looks at every parcel in the county.
And remember, wherever those hands are, whether you're in the spot where the hands are or not, we still have the right to appeal whether or not that valuation is correct. And that is something that does happen from time to time in our county. We have a certain number of appeals, which is a small percentage of the overall parcels, but it's a valuable part of the process to make sure that the appraisals that are going on are actually correct, at least as much as possible.
That's right. We generally have 2% or fewer appeal of all of the parcels, the valuations appealed. And the thing I love about our assessor's office, they don't take that personally. They have no vested interest. If we decrease the value, if somebody appeals the valuation of their property and we say, you know what, you're right, we overvalued it, that doesn't mean that the county gets less money or that the assessor gets a fine or is shamefaced. They know that, they can't perfectly assess everything, and they do their best to do a good job, but they are willing to listen to what the property owner has and what their thoughts are. And we, if it comes to a hearing, we have an independent hearing officer that we hire who comes in and is independent and looks at both sides of the equation. It's a good process. It really is good. And if citizens aren't aware of it, I encourage them to just look when they get their property valuation notice. We include an appeals form right in with that so that they can do that. They can also apply online.
Well, that's an excellent explanation, and thank you. But the reason I asked the question, I come from a city of Laguna Beach in Orange County, California. We have an extremely convoluted taxation process, more convoluted by Prop 13 and Prop 60 impacts. There's a lot going on there. When you get a tax bill, you just read all these line items. It's like, my kids aren't in school or this or that. There's all these things that are on there, and it's important to understand what's in there and how it's being impacted. And quite frankly, since I've been in Utah, all of your processes are very frank, direct. You can reach everybody with a phone call, which is impossible in the state of California. So this state's doing a great job, and I couldn't be happier to be here.
Appreciate
We're
it.
glad to have you here. Just don't tell anyone else what we got going here. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome to restate that we're doing a good job.
So restate.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Sometimes you ask a short question, you get a long answer, but hopefully it was what you needed. Appreciate that. All right, let's move on then to our final item on the agenda. Commissioners?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.